Welcome back to another edition of Zero Block 30. Today we have 4 rounds of the magazine. Round number 1. All the branches met their recruiting goals except for one. We're going to ask Captain Cons why his Army fell short just like they did against Georgia State this weekend.
That's
I
rude.
got it.
That's rude.
It was ugly. It was a low blow. I wrote that right after Kate's beloved Eagles beat my beloved Jags, of which we have to announce a bet. We didn't talk about it last week, but Kate and I had a bet before we decided on it, I think Thursday or Friday, that we were going to do a grog bet. Now, grog, if you don't know, it's like a punch bowl full of disgusting shit that Marines and sailors, I don't know if the other branches of service, I know Marines and soldiers do it too, have a little bit of a grog. We're going to make a grog whenever I come up to New York. I go up on Sunday of this week, and we were going to make it, and then that'll be at the beginning of an episode, and I'll drink it down, and it's going to be gross because my beloved Jags lost. And they lost after they went up 14-0. I was feeling cocky, texting Kate, texting the whole group chat. Next thing you know, Trevor Lawrence with the league-leading amount of fumbles. It was disgusting. Round number 2, beam us up. Scottie. William Shatner is going to come on and talk about space and the wonders that exist there. I don't know if we'll get to the bottom of the fact if the space is cold or not, but we're going to ask him about that. Round 3, as the war in Ukraine continues to not go well for the Russian, news reports about what folks are doing to avoid joining those Russian troops are pretty damn extreme. One of them made me want to puke. Round number 3, no, as you were. Round number 4, what if Gunny ripped ass in your face, though? This is just a little palate cleanser to be quick at the end of the show, all of which is going to be brought to you by our good friends at WhistlePig. WhistlePig is the best whiskey in the biz. It tastes delicious. Last week I went back to straight. You know, at the beginning of the last show, I took a little swig and talked about how hot and spicy it was. That Saturday night, I had it straight. I usually go ice. Now I went straight. You should too. Piggyback Bourbon. They have the 100% proof bourbon. It stands taller and bolder than the pack. No other bourbon and rye duo on the market offers a big age-proof mash and a full scent on flavor for you to have. Go to WhistlePig at their stops, the different shops around, or you can just pick it up from a bar wherever you're at. It's WhistlePig. It's delicious. Shop.whistlepig.com or at a local shop. Again, they have their new 100% bourbon and 100% rye. It's 100 proof bourbon, as you were. Go get some of that. All right. I got to be honest, folks. This weekend, it was fine. It was fine. So I had my kid's 10th birthday was this weekend. 10th birthday, and I wasn't supposed to be here. I talked about it last show that me and my wife were going to go on our 13th anniversary. We're going to go see Ocean's Calling with Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds and OAR and Alanis Morissette and all kinds of other people that we like. Well, I had all my shit packed, Cons. I had my wife's suitcase down that I had to get down, which is always a fiasco. I got my suitcase down, had everything packed for all the different types of environments, weather conditions. I had my Rocky boots in there. I was ready to go. Then we looked at the weather again. Friday night, 55-mile-an-hour winds with 2 to 3 inches of rain with torrential downpours lasting all through the evening. Same thing on Saturday and Sunday. And I looked at my wife. I was like, I understand we paid like a shit ton of money for these tickets, but we can't go to this. Like, we can't.
Yeah.
We're not going to want to sit outside in this shit.
No shot.
Canceled. The whole thing canceled.
The whole thing got canceled.
I'll say this. Anywhere. I think that's a better scenario, though. I'd rather have something canceled on me rather than me have to make the decision because, God forbid, you're like, all right, we're not going to go.
I made the decision before they announced, though.
I know, but I'm saying, like, God forbid, like, you said, like, all right, we're not going to go, and then it still happened, and it ended up being, like, good weather, you would have kicked yourself.
Long story short, you thought you were going to have this magical, your first weekend, your first, like, week away, really, with your wife in, like, over a decade.
10 years.
And next thing you know, you're at Dave & Buster's with your kid. So slightly different.
I know, for a birthday party.
Slightly different vibe. Thing. Yeah.
And I was texting the group chat, like, complaining like a little bitch on the quarterdeck. Like, I don't want to go to Dave & Buster's. I want to be at this concert series. Because my wife was sitting on the little chair in our room whenever we were talking back and forth. And she was like, well, I guess it's up to you if this is the decision that you want to make. And I was like, hold the fucking phone.
Do not do that.
Like, you're not putting this on me in case something happens.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
This little storm takes a turn, and now all of it's on me.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
If it comes out at 62 and sunny and nothing's going on, like, well, you're the one that said it. I said, no. we need to come to an agreement right now on video that both of us are making this decision so nobody can hold it over the other.
I would argue no one has suffered more in this hurricane than you guys.
I would say
it's the worst.
Yeah.
No one else wound up at Dave & Buster's, and that's rough. Unless they're our sponsor at some point, in which case they're a delight.
True. And the worst part is that my mom is here, and her house is actually in the path of the hurricane.
Yes.
And me and Annalise are upstairs talking about, damn, this really sucks. I can't go to this concert.
Yeah.
And she's like, my backyard might be flooded.
Yeah.
Well, that's worse, I guess.
Now, a word from our sponsor, Betterhelp. It can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. But when you learn how to find your own solutions, there is no better feeling. A therapist can help you become a problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals no matter how big or how small. I've always thought about it like I suck at math. You've all heard me try to read numbers on here. I don't know the formulas. They teach you the formulas to get to the math that keeps you healthy in your head. If you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. Convenient, accessible, affordable, entirely online. We talk about sometimes how finding the right therapist, it's almost like dating. It's not always a perfect fit at first. It can be a process. And this process is so much easier on BetterHelp, so much quicker. Get matched with a therapist. You fill out a brief survey and you can switch therapists anytime. Not working for you? No big deal. Try the next. They make it seamless. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/0 today. 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/0.
Yeah.
Well, that's worse, I guess. All right. Well, it's not worse than what the military is going through right now with their recruiting issues. It seems like even like normal media outlets that don't even cover military stuff are picking up on this, partly because it's an easy dunk, right, Kate?
Oh, easy dunk. And this comes to us from Stripes. The Army fell about 15,000 soldiers, or 25% short of its recruitment goal this year, despite a frantic effort to make up the widely expected gap in a year when all the military services struggled in a tight jobs market to find young people willing and fit to enlist. While the Army was the only service that did not meet its target, all the others had to dig deep into their pools of delayed entry applicants, which will put them behind as they begin a new recruiting year on Saturday.
And I kind of think in this article where they start out with willing and fit to enlist, I don't even think it's a willing issue. I think it's like going through this article, I think it's more of a fitness thing that they.
Yeah, it seems like they're eliminating people rather than people not wanting to join.
Right. No, it's that. Well, I think there are people that straight up, they talk about both in this article, but I think it is a huge mix of things. And I do think like there's very few people that can, I don't know.
Oh,
they weren't as fit as me.
And I love it. Let's go.
I know. The worsening problem stirs the debate about whether America's fighting force should be restructured or reduced in size if the services can't recruit enough. And also, I like that idea, like the Army saying, we didn't meet our recruiting goals, and then being like, never mind, we've just made our force smaller. We have met our goals. Like, that's such an easy way to fix it. It also put added pressure on the National Guard and Reserve to help meet mission requirements, which is fine because they aren't stretched thin in any way.
It might be the understatement of the year. Those folks in the Guard are getting fucked.
They are getting fucked. They are getting reverse cowgirl.
Oh, yeah, thumb in the butt and everything.
Eiffel Tower, just crazy town. According to officials, the Marine Corps, which usually goes into each fiscal year with as much as 50% of its recruiting goal already locked in, because they're the best looking, most fit, have the coolest uniforms, and generally are just the best all around, they only had 30% this year already met. The Air Force and Navy will have about 10% of their goals as they start the new fiscal year. Air Force, about 25%. So everybody else is kind of starting ahead of the game, even if they're not as far ahead as they usually are. But the Army, not the case. In the Army's most challenging recruiting year since the start of the all-volunteer force, we will only achieve 75% of our fiscal year 22 recruiting goal, Army Secretary Christine Wormuth said in a statement to the AP. The Army will maintain its keyword readiness and meet all our national security requirements. If recruiting challenges persist, we will draw on the Guard and Reserve to augment active duty forces. Basically, though, I think it's only if somehow shit hits the fan, World War III kind of thing, would they truly need to do that. But she's just saying, if shit does hit the fan, we do have the people to cover it. We'll pull them from the classrooms and the school buses that we have them driving right now.
And I kind of think of this as almost like a football recruiting term, right? Cons, like you look at who's coming in. You have one bad recruiting class, your senior class is going to be struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do
and then
in
it
4
affects
years
everybody
when
else.
you need those NCOs to be small unit leaders?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just picking from slim pickings.
They brought in about 45,000 soldiers in the fiscal year that ended Friday. Their goal was 60,000. This is because 2 years of the pandemic shut off recruiters' access to schools, public events, fairs, and other youth organizations where they often find prospects. Moving to online recruiting as in-person meetings closed down was only marginally successful. And I think this too, when I knew that I wanted to join, mostly because the situation I was in, I was like looking for what I thought was like an easy out. Turns out during the Marine Corps, not an easy out.
You're exactly right, Kate.
But like I was
looking
looking, but I was looking for a life where my parents wouldn't have to, my parents wouldn't have to be providing for me, where I'd be providing for myself. And like the quickest, easiest way to do that was to join the military, like truly. But I still think if I hadn't sat down in person, it would not have happened. If it was if I was just on the phone with a recruiter or in a Zoom meeting with a recruiter, I 99.999% feel like I would have been like, yeah, no, and gone on to something else.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention like what they're talking about here, just all the random events where I think so many people don't even consider it as an option until it just kind of like stumbles into their life because they're at the local county fair
at the pull-up bar,
the Army recruiter,
and they want to
pull-up bar with Michael Scott when he's trying to sell paper in the Air Force is there.
Right.
I mean, because otherwise, if you're trying to join the military, it would almost to me, if everything is online, it's basically like when Best Buy has those huge Black Friday deals where you can't see what the price of the TV is until you put it in your cart. I think a lot of people just put the military in their cart and they're never checking out. They just want to see what it's about. Right. And then they're going to be like, I'm just going to go on my way and I'll pick it up from Amazon because it's going to be cheaper down the road. That's essentially what people are doing in the military. If you don't go in and you're not sitting across from somebody and you feel like you're going to disappoint them if you don't join and that little bit of pressure.
And dude,
good luck.
That's what I'm saying. I'm such a people pleaser. He looked me in the eyes and I was like, okay, fine. Sign me up.
Subway.
Yeah. Like there was something about it though. Being able to talk to someone, look at someone in the eye and tell them like, here's the real deal about my life and what I'm looking to do, and have someone look me in the eye and tell me what was feasible, what wasn't, like what truly to expect, like makes such a huge difference. And the efforts
for you, Kate, too, like I think about what you were going through in college, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but like struggling, you're drinking too much, your grades aren't too much. You see somebody who looks trimmed, squared away, they are presented well, and they're like, you could do this. You can get your life in order and we could help. You're like, I
made a difference in a way a phone call couldn't. Yes.
Yeah. And also, I feel like in the moment, you're probably like, oh, that kind of seems pretty easy. Let me give that a try.
Yeah, there's something, because they try to talk it down. You're like, oh, if they know you want to go to combat, they're like, oh, hell yeah, man. Like, there's a war going on. You can go. You kidding me, dog? We need people over there. Like, you just did 7 pull-ups. You shitting me? We need you over there.
And if you don't, they're like, oh, there's no way you would go. We'll get you in an MLS. We would be fine. Yeah.
Man. You want to go to college? Just come here, dude. What are you
long story short,
doing during working hours?
It really does make a difference. And that the in-person recruiting has still been very slow to open up. They haven't had the same access to the community that they used to. I was saying I texted you guys last weekend. I'm like, I'm finally starting to see recruiters in my neighborhood again and like recruiting shit in my neighborhood again. And I mean, this is still pretty far.
Up that they're all on the back of like a Mormon bicycle and they're like all holding on while they're going through the neighborhoods too.
It's pretty crazy. But
join the church or the Marines? Which one?
So that's number one. Recruiting's been really slow to open up, and it's basically only been online, which again, in person makes a huge difference. At the same time, companies like McDonald's are wooing workers with tuition benefits and other increased perks that for years was only a lot of stuff you could only really get through the military at that level. Military leaders say they are suffering from the same labor shortage that has restaurants, airlines, shops, and other businesses desperately scraping for workers.
Do you guys think there's something to that? Because there has been several different congressmen and congresswomen that have come out and have said that getting rid of the student loan payment is going to be a hard road to hoe for these military members. Do you guys put any credence into that? I do. I mean, honestly, I do. Like, I think that is if you asked everybody who enlists, I would say.
No, I don't.
probably 40% put down college paid for as one of the biggest.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I don't think the percent
so
they're chopping off. Like if I was looking at it and they're only chopping off a small percentage of my loans, or I could go to school for free because of the military, I'm still going with the military. Like until they do a complete.
I think it does cut in, and like because that's huge. The GI Bill and the VA loan, fiscally, are your two biggest benefits that you have.
Because I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can't imagine we're ever going to get to a place where the government's just going to completely forgive 100% of a loan. That'll never happen. So your only option is to get 100% is to go through the military. So I still think it's much more attractive than only having, a couple tens of thousands taken off of that, hundreds of thousands.
But even then, like if you look at other countries that have different ways of loan forgiveness, blah, 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 like you zig, you zag, then the military needs to figure out another good enticement to bring people. You know what I mean? Like figure it out kind of.
And that was the point that I had made originally. Like, so what? Come up with something else. If you want people, so what now what? Like you want somebody to join? Make it worth it. And the McDonald's thing is a fucking kick in the dick because they use that one too. And like, oh, do you want to be working at McDonald's your whole life? And you look over and like, well, now McDonald's is offering to pay for my college education. They're offering to start at $18 an hour, and I don't have to do it for 4 years. I don't know, man.
So yeah,
I don't know how this is in the Marines, but in the Army and in all these services, how many skills are transferable? Like if you're an electrician in the military, can you be a licensed electrician in the state of Texas? For instance, like all those different jobs. So maybe they create more jobs like that where it's not only can you get school, but you can get a license to do work for the rest
before
of your
you
life
get out.
well.
We will give you you will be actually certified and meet the requirements. Yeah. That's right. They just have to zig and zag and keep figuring out.
There's been several different pieces of legislation and bills that have gone in to help that in that regard. Mm-hmm. For instance, like if you are a paramedic and you are able to, your MOS is you're able to be a paramedic on base. Those kind of qualifications is maybe have an augment course or something like that, but there's no reason for you to go through the full-ass course if you are already able to do that. Same thing with electricians. Same thing with working on planes. All those should go to the civilian side. And there's been legislation to make that more readily available to do as well.
That's so easy.
No in-person recruiting. Other jobs in the country offering really good benefits now that they didn't used to. And 3, just 23% of young people can meet the military's fitness, educational, and moral requirements. Only 23% out of the whole nation.
I'm sorry, wait. We have moral requirements to join the military?
Like breaking laws and stuff like that, yeah.
Okay, all right.
With many disqualified for reasons ranging from medical issues to criminal records and tattoos. We remain committed to maintaining our standards, investing in America's youth, and emphasizing quality over quantity, said General James McConville, the Chief of Staff of the Army said. And I do agree that just because you have a shortage doesn't mean... Because remember, when they were trying to boost numbers up post 9/11 and they were letting fucking anybody in, we wound up with some real motherfucking wackadoos. And
yeah, we did.
Yeah, every unit has some goofy people, but there was legit, not a lot, but there was a few people that it was almost kind of sad. Mm-hmm. It was fucked up that they were in. Yeah, they were never gonna assimilate, and their lives were a living hell, like a mental anguish living hell, because they should have never. And any recruiter, any idiot could see this person and be like, yeah, no, they shouldn't be in the military at all. But they were so desperate for numbers, it becomes everyone else's problem. And then it takes away from our readiness because we're spending so much time making sure this person knows how to brush their teeth and shower. And they keep losing their weapon and whatever. It's a whole big
And you're
thing.
Not exaggerating.
No,
those sounds like but you're not exaggerating.
And
they're
those
a
don't
huge
happen
drain
all the time, but they happen far too often. It's not an all the time thing, but it is far too often that those situations come about. And it's terrible. But with 23% of the able to go into the military, some of these disqualifications I think we have to take a look at. There's some that I obviously are going to stick around. If you have a big-time learning disability or something like that, that's going to stick around. But other ones, let's go through them and see if we think that they should stay whenever you have recruiting issues or if they should go away. First up, I think that doing anything black and white just based off of diagnosis or something like that can be a little dangerous. I think that you have to look at the individual person, whenever you're.
And that's why it says these things may affect military service, but they're not going to disqualify you right off the bat. But this is stuff they look at.
Some will, but not all. Like depression, buddy. If you want to talk about nobody can get in with depression, good luck finding people.
Yeah. I'm super depressive person, and I did great in the military, So.
All right, and we'll go through these fast. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Just say thumbs up, thumbs down. Learning disabilities. Okay. Sideways thumb. Got to figure out which one it is.
It depends. Yeah, it depends.
I think that's a sideways thumb one. Bipolar disorder. I think that one is
depends.
I think it. I don't know because it depends on the medication. I think there.
Yeah,
but this is a.
I feel like I'm not qualified to answer.
Yeah, I'm not qualified to answer it. I truly don't know. I think it depends.
I don't know enough about bipolar disorder.
So I'm sure there's tons of people who are excelling in the military who have that. So
yeah, I'm sure there is too, and that's why I want to make this point before we go any further.
Yeah, I feel like this is a slippery slope. Though we're doing
it is a slippery slope for sure, but. I think a lot of times military looks at every single person almost as if they're a grunt and they're going to be on the battlefield, and that's not factual anymore. Like this isn't World War II, this isn't World War I. Everybody's not going to be in a trench. Like you can have people with these issues that they need to be on medication because with proper medication and proper coping skills, a lot of these disqualifiers can be mitigated through medication, through treatment, through therapy, and all those types of things. Why can't you do that? Like, just because somebody has a disability or they have a diagnosis that historically has been a disqualifier, if we have the technology and we have the medical expertise, why not let folks in that are going to serve in, like, logistics roles, supply roles, things that are going to be primarily in the continental United States, and they're
on the grunt end, I would argue that some of the craziest motherfuckers I knew were the best grunts. So.
True, yeah.
You never know.
Wires a little different. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
All right, so you also have herpes. What do we think? Thumbs up?
No,
I say you're good with that. In.
You're absolutely good with that.
Who among us?
Yeah, unless it looks real gross. If you look real gross in uniform, you got to get out of here, right?
No, I say that's fine as well.
As somebody that has cold sores before, I feel like it's an integrity violation to have a huge cold sore whenever you're in chucks. No? Braces.
Okay. What does this mean? Like braces on your teeth?
Or legs?
Yeah, they don't let you in until you get them off. I would say just make them wait till they're off, I guess.
That's mouth braces. What about legs?
Yeah, why not? Okay. Go.
No.
This one's a new one. This one just changed. HIV, AIDS, and STDs.
It depends on the STDs, I guess. And I feel like they can manage that stuff so well now that...
It's not an automatic disqualifier anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's that like huge of a... Yeah.
PTSD.
No, because I think you can have PTSD from any number of incidents in your life that, it's a lot more common than I think people realize.
Eyesight issues?
No, bring them in.
It depends. Yeah, can you glasses it? Can you fix it up a little bit? Then bring them in.
And they also have different ones, like you can't be on probation, you can't have deferred adjudication, you can't have a conviction, and things like that. Do you guys think that those should stick around?
Again, it depends. My answer for like every single one of these is it depends. It just depends on what the crime was and
what I wasn't aware of. Bedwetting. You have a history.
Is that a real thing on the list?
I swear to God, it is. It's listed on the Air Force Academy website. That's where I found it, and it was some crazy technical term that I had never heard of that means bedwetting, and I had to look it up. I did a little right-click look up definition. Turns out it's wet in the bed, folks. You're a known bedwetter. Get out.
Dude, so Sarah Silverman, the comedian, she was her prolific bedwetter. She has a book called The Bedwetter, well into like her teen and adult years. Like, it's a thing for some people. It is legit a thing.
But I'm sorry, was that alcohol induced?
No. It's something. It's like a when they fall asleep, their brain doesn't have the same control that our brains do over their bladders. And so they just are wetting the bed all the time, which stinks. You could be like a sharpshooter, but you're peeing your sleeping bag. You're having a tough time out there.
My friend on TikTok, Diaper Dynamo. He is a fellow that doesn't have the ability to hold in his pee or poop, and he talks about being an adult wearing a diaper out in town and how it keeps himself clean. If you want some good content, and go check out Diaper Dynamo on TikTok. It's incredible. But that's one that you can't do. Overall, I think with this problem, they're just going to have to make adjustments. You can't throw a 1950s solution at a 2020s problem. And that's essentially what the military is trying to do. Let people do a little bit more. I think like we have the technology to mitigate some of these risks. Do that. And it's not even a risk in a lot of ways, I don't think.
Can we talk about one that's on this list here that this just wasn't a thing when we grew up, or if it was a thing, nobody knew about it. celiac disease, where you can't eat gluten. I feel like that's just something that kind of just showed up one day and it's like, hey, can't eat bread anymore.
Yeah, an evolutionary trait, some call it cons.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one.
The one thing I will say is, like, I think we talked about this the other week, though. The common thing I'm seeing is, well, they're not meeting their numbers because the Army's too woke now because blah, 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 blah. There's a great interview with Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael Grinston, which pretty much shuts that down. And that's not, and again, if we look at the reasons why recruiting, and particularly in the Army, is struggling, it's many other reasons beside that. But it's so annoying to see that become the talking point with zero research, zero backup, zero whatever. And it's such like an easy scapegoat, I guess, like such an easy thing to point at to rile people up. But I'm just kind of annoyed of seeing that narrative.
You know what else, though? I think people love to drop woke because I think it makes them, they think in their head it makes them sound smart. And like, oh, yeah, everything's getting so woke and they're smarter than everybody else in the room when it's not actually a thing.
Yeah, well, the one, like, I follow all these military meme pages, and one of them was like, they want to know why they're not meeting the recruiting standards. Everybody's getting charged for sexual assault now. Everybody's blah, 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 blah. And it was like,
people. What's this about?
Yeah. And it was like, what are you talking about? Like, women get the maternity uniforms and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, actually, this is all stuff that ultimately is going to open the door for way more people to feel comfortable joining and way more people to stay in longer, which will be better for the military. Like, they're mad about paternity leave and stuff like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is all stuff that improves the quality of life.
On NBC News, Fort Bragg has more mold than the rest of planet Earth combined in their barracks.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of thing really affects you. There was Cons did a TikTok about it the other day where he talked about U.S. Army what the fuck moments where they had a first sergeant who was denying leave or putting it back on the soldier who was trying to do his EAS leave, which is your end of active service. You're getting out of the military. He wanted 45 days before he got out. And the first sergeant wrote it back, like kicked it back to the platoon leader and was like, well, what about training? What are we going to do? We got some company training coming up and we're going to need him involved. He's getting the fuck out, man. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Let him go. Right. Yeah, there's all sorts of reasons besides the woke. Like, there's just endless. And two, coming off a 20-year war that didn't go so great and that had like a horrific ending. Like, there's just so many reasons. But I think the Army is going to do a good job. I love Sergeant. I love that. Michael Grinston, Sergeant Major Michael Grinston. I think he's going to do a really good job and really good stuff, and they're going to.
I really think
turn it around.
They need to work this problem backwards. Kind of going back to what I said earlier. Not worried about like how are we going to qualify or disqualify people. It's like how do we make the military more attractive?
Trampoline at every barracks. Trampoline at every barracks.
If you work for, you have to do HR stuff. Even Barstool, it's one of the best places that you could possibly work for us. Even they will add like. Oh, well, now we have this little thing with Uber Eats that you can do. Or if you want to join a gym, you can do these things and we'll pay you back for that. Your cell phone. Like adding little things on as an HR department, the Army has the ability to do that. Just stop using, the military in general, just stop using recruiting bonuses and contract bonuses. Make life better. Like make it where.
Yeah, improve quality of life. It's not all about money all the time.
What do you think the response would be because everybody wants to get out of the barracks. If the military in general was like the moment that you become an NCO, you get to move out of the barracks. Like if you do that, people will be working harder to get promoted so they could get out of the barracks.
Yeah.
Have incentives.
Absolutely.
Incentive-based.
Better childcare, easier access to childcare if you're a single parent thinking about joining. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot that could be done.
What about bonuses? Like if you did, for instance, if, say, Kate goes out and runs a 295 PFT, you give somebody a superior PFT bonus, and they get $1,000. If they do it both times that year, you get $1,000 bonus. Like, if you did things like that, that makes you work hard. I mean, Kate, would you have put out as many merch tweets if we didn't have Merchapalooza with some incentive? Absolutely not.
No, I wouldn't have cared at all.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's a way to to dangle that carrot, and ultimately you get a better fighting force as a result.
Well, there, I think we just figured it out.
We did.
Good for us.
You're welcome, America. All right, let's move on to round number 2. We're going to bring in William Shatner. Here's your William Shatner.
Now on the show, we are joined by American legend William Shatner with his new book, Boldly Go, Reflections of a Life of Awe and Wonder, which is out now if you're listening to it. This comes out tomorrow. It's a collection of essays that takes us through nearly 9 decades of your life. And my favorite review that I read of it is that someone said it's like getting to grab a beer at a local bar with William Shatner and hearing about life, love, pivotal moments of his life like he's your friend. and really getting to hear how all these things in your life are connected and how we are all connected. So one of the key elements that drove all this was your sense of curiosity. Did you always have a strong sense of that? Like, did people say as a kid you were always?
I think so. Now, I want to show like the members of your audience who are military. I'm going to show you command structure. Dogs, quit. See? Silent.
Perfect. You probably won them over right away. He's a dog guy. Yes.
There you go. There's the big dog. Now you just be quiet.
Oh, my other host was a canine handler in the military, so he would have loved this.
Well,
yeah,
he
wasn't able to.
Dobermans that think it's their job to keep me defended against squirrels. Squirrels are really, really very dangerous, and so they guard the squirrels.
It's important work. Somebody's got to do it.
Me, right?
Yeah.
So the question is that the book is about connection, and armed services are about connection. Mm-hmm. We see that the best units are those units that have connected, that mm-hmm. the people in the unit are taking care of each other, and there's a bond, and those are the best fighting units. We see that in war right today, mm-hmm. how that is binding people and unbinding people, and it's miraculous, really.
Oh yeah, looking out for each other, and yes, and the stronger the connection. You see it in a bad unit; they don't have those connections that a good one does.
That's what I mean.
Some of the other things in the book are, you talk about facing you face so many different fears. Whitewater rafting. You once flew a stunt plane that you weren't quite sure fully how to land 100%. Blue Origin. You went to space last year. Swimming with sharks. A lot of great experiences come at the cost of, these things are dangerous. Things could go wrong. What makes it worth it to you to say, I'm afraid, but we're doing this?
Because everything dangerous that I have done, and they were dangerous. Mm-hmm. Looking back, I think, well, how could I have done that? That was the stupidest thing I could have done. And name it. I've always felt that as an actor, I would never get hurt. It was the stuntman that was going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether I told this story in the book, but there was a motorcycle gag, Moses Lake, way north of Los Angeles, all sand dunes. So the gag, the athletic event was the thing on the film, stunt on the film, was to leap off a sand dune. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't going to do that, but I'm into motorcycles. So I was going to ride the motorcycle right up to the sand dune, stop. Then the stuntman gets on the bike and he does the stunt. Then he accomplishes the stunt, and then I get back on the bike, and everybody thinks I've done the stunt. So I get off the bike, and the stuntman does the stunt and breaks his back. He breaks his back. He becomes a paraplegic on that one stunt, and the color, the trajectory of the story is that his girlfriend is there, and she runs down, and he's lying there, and she says, "Oh, Mr. Shatner, can I have your autograph?" And her boyfriend or her husband, God, the sand is like dripping into his face because she's like got sand grains on her. It was the most extraordinary moment.
Yeah. In a long series of crazy stories that you have.
My crew is not listening to me.
Oh, that's okay. Mine doesn't listen to me either. It's fine. And so your enthusiasm for space, I know you played the role of Captain Kirk, the infamous role. Were you into space before that, or did that get you into it? And did you ever imagine you would wind up eventually going into space?
No, I never imagined I'd wind up going. I had no interest in going into space. It's scary.
It is. It's terrifying.
I'd go to bed and watch a ball game. I had read a lot of science fiction. It's a really creative form of fiction, science fiction, in that many of the writers were scientists. So they had a vision of what was coming down the pike, or what was going to happen in 20 years. They had seen a laboratory thing happen, and you knew if that laboratory thing worked, they could amplify it and make it worldwide, whatever it was. I wrote a book called I'm Working on That.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to some of the leading schools, Mellon University, for example, and talked to students doing advanced work, and then wrote that up in the book. Because this is what, I remember all those years ago, they were working on tags that gave off a signal so you'd be able to identify your luggage. That was just in the laboratory then. Wow, look at this. It's going to, and of course it changed everything. So I was interested in science fiction.
Yeah.
Prior to, in fact, one of the benefits of doing Star Trek was meeting those guys that I had read, Isaac Asimov and people like that.
I think it's interesting. I'm sure both of those things influence each other. Like you were influenced by them. And then I bet people who actually went on to work for NASA and do great things with space and research like that were probably influenced by you and watching that show when they were growing up.
Absolutely. So many people at NASA were affected by Star Trek, and the joy of the mystery that they perceived as a kid put them into schools and universities, and their profession was their choice because of Star Trek.
I think another thing that in the reviews that I've been reading, people are saying they love that you don't focus on growing old or age in this book, and that decade after decade, you still approach life with a marvelous sense of wonder. And I think a lot of us, especially people who serve in the military and especially veterans, sometimes we feel like we've already done our one great adventure after we get out. We did our deployments and that was kind of the peak.
Wow.
And now we're out and we're in a rut. Do you have any advice?
Yes, you and I are on an adventure right now, aren't we? Isn't this a really interesting exploration? Yes. I mean, you could be in the darkest of Africa, whatever that, and wending your way through the plants, or you could be wending, well, look, I'm discovering this thing about his mind and her mind and what her likes and dislikes, and it's an adventure of some discovery that never gets old. And there is, we carry all human beings, I guess, carry around in them the inner child, the little 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old child that over a period of an adult lifetime usually gets beaten down, and you lose your curiosity. What's that, mommy? Why is the sky blue? And then it becomes, oh, well, it's blue. If you can cultivate that inner child, that awe and wonder about everything, Look at you and me, just talking. We don't know each other. We're talking on like we would have a beer over at a bar, but we don't need beer because we've got earphones. I mean, it's beautiful. There's a beauty to what you and I are doing, this exploration called an interview. There's a beauty to it that if only you were aware of how beautiful it is, you wouldn't yearn for adventures that you think you should be doing.
So keep trying to find small ways to get out of your comfort zone, connect with other people.
It is.
Yeah, or large ways.
Whatever it is, just taking a step is an adventure. You're onto new ground. There are new things surrounding your feet and in the air, and your thoughts are different.
And this book too, it's kind of reflections on your life throughout the years. What inspired you to write this? And who do you think the best person, I want this person to read it. It would help this person and they would find it.
I don't think in terms of help.
Right.
I've got 16 now members of my immediate family. And they don't read the books or listen to the albums.
Oh.
What is it? The prophet without a voice in my own. So if I can get them to listen to an album that I've done or read a book. So a couple of them have read this book. Oh, Dad, that's really cool.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my motivation. get my family to listen or read or look
And
at.
so if they're doing it, it must be good. It must be good.
Yeah.
And finally, have you heard from the Space Force at all? They just came out with their new song. Are they?
No, I haven't heard from them. I was interviewed when they were thinking of the name, and what did I think? And I said, I think it's a great idea. Have a new arm of the nation.
When they released their song, I was hoping. Maybe they got William Shatner.
Have you heard their song?
I did. Did you hear it? They just released it recently.
No, I haven't. I wonder who wrote it. Is it good?
I was hoping for something more futuristic and something with a little more zhuzh to it and a little more excitement. It kind of sounds like the Marine Corps hymn, the Navy song. It's kind of old school. So I was like, maybe I'll try and get you linked up and maybe you can do something good for them.
Hints, yeah.
A couple pointers.
They know what they're doing. They got it in hand.
And finally, do you have anything else coming up? Are you going back into space anytime soon?
No, I'm not going to go back to space, but I've got an extraordinary number of things happening. I've got a wonderful show that's now a hit show called The Unexplained.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it on Netflix. You can get it on the History Channel. I performed at the Kennedy Center recently, and so I've made a video of that. There'll be a documentary live at the Kennedy Center, and an album of that as well, because there were some extraordinary songs that the National Symphony Orchestra and I performed. So there'll be an album of that. There's an NFT coming out next month that is really unusual. You got to take a look at it. I designed a watch, so much so that NASA put their imprimatur on it. So it's a really good-looking watch, I think. And let's see, the book, and I think that's it for the moment.
Oh, that's just a couple things. No big deal. That trumps my list, which is just getting lunch later
on.
That's all I have going on. But man, fantastic stuff. I can't wait to read it. Boldly Go, Reflections of a Life of Awe and Wonder. And what a life so far with who knows what everything you've got going on, everything you have coming up next sounds absolutely amazing. And again, we say that this podcast, we want people to feel like they're just sitting around with their buddies and telling stories. And that's what people have said this book feels like. They're getting to sit down with you and hear your stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Before we move on, a message from Rocky Boots. They design their boots to keep servicemen and women safe, comfortable, and looking good so they can focus on the mission and not on uncomfortable boots. Only comfy boots from Rocky Boots. Check out their S2V boot. It's the Jordan of military boots, okay? These are hot patootin's, as they say in the biz. They're lightweight. They probably hate me saying that. They're lightweight, comfortable, very compliant, and approved for wear with all applicable OCP variations. Drainage vents with technology to circulate air and push water out, allowing your feet to dry quickly in these military boots. If you're wearing a pair of Rocky Boots, you will not be going viral for having a giant blister on the bottom of your foot. You will not be going viral for having your foot look like a dried out raisin prune at the end of a hike, because your feet are going to be in perfect shape. Rocky's roll stop ankle stability technology has been tested and approved by the SEALs and will keep you moving at full speed in the toughest conditions. If you're out of the service, Rocky also has you covered. I wear them hiking with my son on my back. I trust Rocky Boots to keep my ankles sturdy when I'm scrambling like a billy goat with baby on my back. So I trust them. They've never let me down. They specialize in hunting and work boots too, to keep you comfortable and safe. Go to rockyboots.com, enter promo code ZBT at checkout for 25% off your next pair of boots.
American legend, folks. An American legend. Very cool. Very awesome to have him on the show.
An absolute legend indeed. Let's move on to round number 3, where we're going to talk a little bit about Russia. This is from Reuters. What do we got here, Kate?
All right. Ukrainian forces achieved their biggest breakthrough in the south of the country since the war began, bursting through the front and advancing rapidly on Monday, threatening to encircle thousands of Russian troops. Kiev gave no official confirmation of the gains, but Russian sources acknowledged the Ukrainian tank offensive had advanced dozens of kilometers along the river's west bank, recapturing a number of villages along the way. This breakthrough mirrors recent Ukrainian success in the east that has turned the tide of the war against Russia. And we're seeing tons of videos of the Russian retreat. They're all getting captured. The retreats aren't going well if they're not getting captured. Even as Moscow has tried to raise the stakes by annexing territory, ordering mobilization, and threatening nuclear retaliation, like nothing, they're getting crazier and crazier. They're pulling out all the stops. and nothing is working. Just hours after a concert on Moscow's Red Square on Friday, where Russian President Vladimir Putin proclaimed the province of
5 different provinces.
Yeah, 5 different provinces that I can't
a whole
pronounce.
lot of letters.
But basically, they had a big.
Cons to try the West Point grad. Let's see how he does with Russian words or Ukrainian words. Here we go, Cons. What do we got?
I'm saying Donsk,
Okay.
Luhansk, Kherson, and this last one's tough.
Yeah.
Zaporizhia?
No, I get
That's
I think you
Zaporizhia.
fucking crushed it, Cons. My
Nailed
God.
it. But basically, they had a big fake vote where Putin's like, see, all the Ukrainians in these territories voted and said they want to be part of us. So they're officially ours now. Not the case. And now Ukraine is going back in and recapturing a lot of these areas. Putin has been responding to Russia's failures on the battlefields this past month by escalating, again, proclaiming the annexation of these occupied territories, calling up tens of thousands of men as reservists. We were talking about the dad army, the old man army last week, and threatening nuclear war.
And so during this whole time, they've had people fleeing across the borders. They're trying to go everywhere because anybody that has served in their armed forces is getting called up. Like, they're having all this mobilization. So I was scrolling on TikTok this weekend, just sitting in my office, scrolling. And wouldn't you know it, I saw a fella, and this is why this story came about on the show. I saw a guy that was sitting at the bottom of the stairs with one of his legs propped up on the stairs. There was clearly, like, you could see alcohol, vodka bottles in the background. Shout out the Russians. They always like their vodka bottles. Well, this guy's sitting on the edge of the stairs, and you could see the caption is like, do it in Russian. And the guy goes on the guy at the top of the stairs like, are you sure? And he said, yes, do it. Yeah, do it. And then he jumps, smashes down on his leg, and and it was like his fucking shin, dude. Like, he didn't break it was his shin. And it completely snaps. He starts screaming, and the guy picks him up. And one of the only things I could think about, this shit has fucking 1 million likes on it and didn't get taken down, and I post one picture of a fucking sniper rifle and explain the technology behind it and the capabilities, and it gets to stay up and we get an account warning? What the fuck? I mean,
yeah,
that's baloney TikTok.
So we had that one, and then there was another video that came out whenever I was researching this topic. Another video came out with another dude that was trying to break his arm bone, the top arm bone. Did it with a fucking sledgehammer, and not like just a little dink, dink, dink. This was like Paul Bunyan. He had his blue ox beside him, and they're putting in the railroad ties. It was fucking insane, man. And the shitty part is, you could see this sledgehammer come down, boom, direct contact. This guy's arm must have been made of titanium. It didn't fucking budge. He was just like, it's gonna be a big bruise. Like,
now you're just going to war with a giant bruise.
Right.
Yeah, young Russian men are breaking their limbs and posting the footage of the bone-shattering blows. Because if you are going to do it, you might as well get likes off it.
Yeah.
Truly.
I mean,
you might as well.
AK-47 just lying around, just put one round through your foot and you're done. I mean, my God.
They're posting footage of the bone-shattering blows online as they seek to avoid going to war in Ukraine. While some would-be draft dodgers fled the country in the wake of Putin's partial mobilization, others have taken to mutilating themselves to avoid being forced to join the Russian armed forces. And I guess if you look at it, if you truly, these people must think like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to have a fucked up leg the rest of my life. I'll take the fucked up leg.
And I know a lot of people are probably thinking, why don't you do something smaller, like break your wrist or something like that? Because there's people that are getting called up here in certain areas that are being conscripted that have legit birth defects. Like that they have like one arm is much smaller and doesn't have any muscle mass, and they're getting called up to join. Like these people.
Yeah. And the article goes on to talk about another incident where a guy has his arm and the friends are smashing it with a sledgehammer. The victim stands up, his arm is hanging limply by his side. 2 women inspect the wounded man's arm and ask, what do you mean I didn't? Like, we did all this and it didn't break? Another one, a guy breaking his friend's leg. There's just a bunch of videos coming out now. Kremlin officials have warned Russians against deliberately injuring themselves in order to squirm out of Putin's mobilization. And so now you have to wonder, like, if you get drafted, you intentionally break something, and then you show up to the place being like, uh-oh, I can't go, I broke my leg. Will they start having punishments for that too?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
like, do you think it could... the new trend highlights desperation among Russians to avoid being sent as part of ill-equipped and barely trained units join the invasion forces. Urging Russians to demonstrate against the mobilization, Andrei Yermak, the head of the Ukrainian president's office, wrote, "They mutilate themselves so as to not be mobilized. Protest is more effective, but this option is not for slaves." So he's telling the Russian people, listen, you can get out of this if you all protest together and all stop this together. None of you have to mutilate yourselves. But obviously,
it's a scary proposition too, because
yes,
I mean, going in there to think about how awful you must expect your life to be, to put your leg up on a stair and have somebody just snap it in half. I mean, that's not the type of injury that you get that gets better quickly. That's the type of injury that fucks you for the rest of your life.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't never heal properly.
On top of that, they said over 250,000 men have already fled the country. I'm assuming, like, you can't come back after that because
why would you want to?
Well, I'm saying after the war's over, like, you're probably a marked man after that.
No, I'm saying, though, like, I don't think even after the war's over, you know, life in Russia is all that great. I have to imagine your prospects are better in another country.
Sure, but
well, now Russia,
like your
too.
Family, like all your friends and everybody that you ever knew in your whole life is there. And some of these stories of, like, places of these Russians going to Turkey and they're going to Estonia, and some of them are, like,
Georgia.
turning them back. They're like, fuck no, you can't stay here, man. Like, no way. You're not fleeing.
And now Russia's having to use some of their forces to go to those borders and stop the guys from leaving. Other acts of desperation to avoid the draft. One man set himself on fire, and another, and I accidentally stumbled across this video. There's like no warning on it.
That's the
he
worst
goes
kind of protest. Setting yourself on fire. I mean, buddy, I'd rather.
Oh yeah, no thank you. Another guy went to a drafting center, a muster center, and opened fire and killed the military commander at point blank range at that site. British military officials on Thursday said the exodus of those seeking to avoid being called up had threatened Russia with a brain drain. So, like, basically all this, like, they're saying, like, all the smart people with good jobs who like their lives and are happy, who don't want to go die in this shitty war, are leaving. So, like, Russia's best people are dipping out on them, too. So they're going to be left with a brain drain.
Let's recruit!
Let's recruit! In its daily intelligence update, the Ministry of Defense said, when combined with those reservists who are being mobilized, the domestic economic impact of reduced availability of labor and a brain drain is likely to become significant. So, to these towns that are left behind, all these women and children and people who aren't fit to go, like, they're being left without all their men. And so, what will happen? I don't know. Yeah, so pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy indeed. Let's move on to something a lot more fun. We're going to talk farting because we need a little, after talking about snapping legs and snapping arms and setting yourself on fire, we need a little bit of a palate cleanser, and nothing's better than a good old-fashioned fart. I mean, because, Cons, I know, whenever you're a convoy commander or anything like that, were you ripping ass in the Humvee?
I mean, you're in a Humvee for hours on end.
I know you were.
You have to.
You were. I'm glad you have an integrity.
Did everyone know it was you? Because you have a real specific brand, mi amigo.
You really do.
Yeah.
I think farts are one of the things that cut through basically all kinds of drama. If you're having a big-time firefight, you need a fart. You're having somebody that's struggling with their leadership style. Maybe they're a bedwetter. You need to settle that with a fart. Just a fart will just cure so many different things. So we're going to leave you on this show with a little bit of fart chat. And because last week, I'll be honest, on our Friday show or Thursday show, depending on which one you listen to, on that show, we had some of the worst and most egregious acting of any podcast in the history of podcasts. So we're going to give it another go this week because we're going to come back a little bit better than we left you last week. So let's start. Kate, you do the first one. This is just from a Reddit post that was called, What If Gunny Farted in Your Face, Though? And that was the only thing that was there, and then people just.
So that was the only prompt. Yeah. What if Gunny farted in your face?
And the replies were amazing.
Lord of War 1775 said, "I'd suck it in like a vacuum cleaner." Mm-hmm. Turn it on like a vacuum was the reply.
Did you guys ever do that, Kate?
What? Suck in farts like a vacuum? Yeah. No.
So at boot camp, if you're sitting there cleaning your rifles or you're writing your little nasty letters home to your family and stuff like that, if you're sitting there and somebody lets one bark because of those damn powdered eggs with the willy peed in them so you don't get a fucking boner. If you're sitting there and you're doing all that stuff, somebody farts, the drill instructor a lot of times will poke their little head out of the duty hut and be like, turn on the fucking vacuums. And then everybody has to go.
I wish we did that over at 4th Battalion when I was in, but no, we did. Our DIs did not make us suck in farts like a vacuum. I love that, though.
Farted. Turn on the vacuums.
I can't believe I'd never heard that before.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Cultural AD said, not benefiting of the rank. By E7, they should know how to fart into an 8-point and then throw it across the room at you. So they should be able to fart perfectly into their hat and throw the hat to you full of farts. And you should have to.
That's quite the move. I can't believe that's not one that I pulled off. And this next comment is the reason why I wanted to do this. This is one of the
cons.
No, I think this has Chaps.
You read this comment by Turtle Herpes. Go ahead.
No, I think Chaps will be better suited to do this one.
Kate, I need your assistance though, Kate. I need you on the clear fart noises. I need you to step up and really lay down some thunder. Not enough thunder. I need more thunder. We need way more thunder.
How do I'm blanking on how to make a good fart.
You don't remember this one? What was your go-to fart face move? Did you have one? You can't do it with a beard. You can't do a fart noise with a beard. You don't have enough. Okay, here we go. Oh, yes, dear. Quite pungent indeed. Is that, dare I say, eggs I smell? Yes, quite so, my darling. Quite pungent eggs. Yes, very much so. Ah, yes, also a hint of cheese. Quite wet, my dears. But oh, yes, this will be nicely. Please, my dear. Another, if you please. Now a nice big... Kate. We're done with the acting again. Kate missed the fart prompt because she's messing with the dinosaur. It's just an unbelievable comment. Oh, yes, very good. Sleepy, very sloppy and wet, my dear. Is that a drop of a nugget I see on the rim? Let me see. Just let me have a little taste before I sniff, my darling. And it goes on for another 3 paragraphs. And all of the Marines that reply to this comment are like, Jesus Christ. And you know when it's a bunch of Marines that are like, that's a little much, you took it too far. You just took it too far.
I just love turn on the vacuum. I love turn on the vacuum. I think that's something I'm going to start using and saying in my own life. Poor Pat.
Do it for cash.
So, yeah, teach him turn on the vacuum.
That's right.
Yeah. It cracks me up when he does like a human-sized fart. He's so small. Like, good on you.
You know, I'll tell you from my work with Christopher Nolan, you know, acting is so much more than just reading lines on a piece of paper. Yeah. You have to really understand the character, and that's why I didn't really feel comfortable doing this. I don't understand who these people are, and I don't understand their pain, and I don't think I can give an honest performance without knowing any of that. If we'd like to select maybe some script reading from different military movies where we can really understand who it is that we're portraying, I think that would be a better depiction of our acting abilities rather than reading random Reddit lines. That's my opinion.
Okay, I think that's fair. All right, let's move on to save rounds and alibis. Nick, we'll start with you.
Here at Zero Block 30, we're known for having an opinion now and then. To be honest, we're usually spot on. Even if you disagree with us, even if we're wrong, we're right. Here's our hottest new take. It is not a bad time to buy a home. In fact, for some, it could be the perfect time. Look, with low to no money down or refi options that let you draw a line of credit with lower interest than a credit card, CrossCountry Mortgage has all your bases covered. They listen, CCM understands, they communicate throughout your entire loan process, so you're never going to be in the dark wondering what's happening with the process. They provide more loan options tailored to your financial capabilities. I know a lot of times in the military and you're traveling, your spouse is working on different jobs, it can be very complicated. They're down to understand all that and tailor it to you. Innovative technology focuses on what's important to fulfill your loan needs, faster closing times than the competition, stable monthly payments, and low to no down payments. Access your equity for larger expenses from debt consolidation to home renovations. And swag alert. Get a free Barstool CrossCountry Mortgage sweatshirt when you sign up to refi or get pre-approval while supplies last, of course. See if you qualified today. Visit ccm.com/Barstool now. CrossCountry Mortgage LLC, NMLS 3029, all loans subject to underwriting approval. www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
Save rounds for me, I don't know. The Mets are a disaster, so I really don't have a save round. I have sad rounds for myself because I'm just a ball of emptiness right now. So I got nothing for you.
Does it make it worse with how cocky you guys were about the over the Yankees?
So here's the thing. I go full throttle all the time. I don't have a stop on me. So I've been through so much. I lost to the Yankees in 2000 when I went to an all-boy Catholic school where everyone's name was either Carmon or Calogero. So now I'll let you guess who they rooted for. Okay, so I've seen some shit. I haven't been to war, but I've seen some shit when it comes to baseball. I'm invincible in this department, right? I don't care. I will lay everything on the line. I will play all my cards because for me, it's like I haven't had anything to root for. So that you give me something, I'm gonna go 100%. And if I have to eat crow, I'm gonna eat crow. But right now, I'm absolutely miserable. Today,
at least if you're eating crow, you're doing it with a perfect jawline.
Exactly. Thank God I'm good looking because there's a lot of ugly looking Met fans out there and they got nothing going for themselves right now. And I'm not one of those people. That's my save round. Please subscribe to the YouTube. Please subscribe. Thank you.
Cons?
I wish I could go into my brain and turn off the part of the brain that causes emotion over sports. Chaps, you know this. Kate, you know this. It's just very difficult to be 1-3. Would not have predicted 1-3 right now. I think we still got a good team. I won't go too much into detail on all my thoughts, but I'm still optimistic for the remainder of the season. And it was nice to find out though that part of my pain is exasperated by the fact that my wife and Chaps text one-on-one to basically just make fun of me about my pain.
Love it.
So that was a fun discovery.
It's two people that really care about you.
Alleged.
We care about you.
But so one thing was discussed. Somebody was talking to me at the tailgate, whatever. And my year group is coming up on promotion for lieutenant colonel. Can I make promotion? Crazy? Can I make promotion from Captain Cons to Colonel Cons?
Absolutely.
Lieutenant Colonel Cons?
We've seen what happens with that J.R. McQueskey guy. We got to just do accurate shit here. We don't want any stolen valor claims on ZBT.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. And then last thing about the Army, I've been watching that Jeffrey Dahmer show on Netflix. Did you know Jeffrey Dahmer was in the Army?
Ugh.
Oh, God, of course.
Not a good look.
Not when you guys are already struggling with your recruiting numbers. That's not one you want to get out there.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? Oh, well.
Catherine?
That's all I got.
Let's see. November 11th, Friday, November 11th, if anybody in the Philly area is listening, Barstool is doing the first ever Barstool Sports Invitational. It's a Friday in Philly. What more could you want? I'm going to be there. I don't know if you guys are going to be there, but I hope so. But it's also November 10th. What is this?
When you say invitational, just can you say what it is?
UAB versus Toledo.
No, but what is
Mississippi State versus Akron? Oh, it's a it's a basketball tournament. It's a basketball tournament.
Thank you.
My bad. It's a basketball tournament taking place at the place where I used to serve concessions. So it's very exciting for me.
Are you going to be able to
Don't change it out, right, Kate?
Nope, you got to be careful.
Are you gonna throw on your old uniform and dole out some concessions for old time's sake?
I might put the hairnet on again and serve some weenies.
You guys make them extra sloppy.
Yeah, I'll make them extra sloppy for you if you come to my weenie stand. I was saying that we're kind of looking at Veterans Day is coming up, the Marine Corps birthday, all that stuff. If you're in the Philly area and you know of something cool going on, like a Silky's Hike type thing or like whatever. And if there's a big party for the Marine Corps birthday happening, blah, 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 hit us up. Maybe we'll be able to make it. That would be awesome. Because I'm kind of out of touch. And Rutherford, New Jersey is not a hub of military activity. So I've been a little out of the loop on that. So hit us up on that. I know I'll at least be in the Philly area and I'm always down to. I've done the Marine Corps birthday cookies before down there, which was fucking awesome. So I'll have to see what's going on, but we'll have to look into that. But just a heads up on that. Other than that, I don't think I have anything right now.
The big news on social media this weekend for mine was that I think it's one of the most egregious integrity violations I've ever seen. And it comes from that fishing tournament that happened.
Oh, my God, I know.
If you haven't seen the articles about this fishing tournament, go to barstoolsports.com. It's pinned at the top. So there is this fishing tournament where it's like a local tournament that they do every year with apparently $1,000 worth of prizes, and they have boats and things like that are one of the prizes as well. One of the guys, a team of guys that have won it, I guess, a couple times.
I got the blurb for you here.
There you go.
Yeah, Chase Kaminsky and Jake Runyon were caught cheating in the biggest Lake Erie walleye tournament. Okay, there's a lot of walleye tournaments out there. This is one of the biggest.
The belle of the ball.
And these two have been going to tournaments across the country, and I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars. They're winning boats. They're winning tens of thousands of dollars, and they have been accused of cheating numerous times. And then they failed their polygraph test after they won the Fall Brawl fishing tournament a year or two ago.
Fucking polygraph after a fishing tournament is wild.
Listen, that's serious, but when you're talking about this level of money, it's not like, hey, you just get a nice plaque. Yeah, there's a lot of money at stake.
Some of these tournaments were like hundreds of thousands. Like, I'm talking, these guys were like making a living off this. And for years, all these other fishermen are like, I know they're cheating. I know they're cheating. They're failing polygraph tests. They're winning, like, say in a previous tournament I was reading about, like, their fish won by over like 10 pounds from what all the other guys are catching, whatever. So they go and they're standing there, they're getting their fish weighed. The announcer of the tournament's like, okay, these two have the biggest fish, I guess they win. And then that guy, the announcer, is kind of like, hold my mic for a second, reaches down, slices into the fish, and pulls out these huge lead weights. They started. The announcer then is like, they have weights in their fish. They have weights in their fish.
Types of men that are going to be at a fishing tournament.
Yeah.
Well, listen
These are
to
not
this.
dudes that abide cheating.
So many other guys then start surrounding the guys that they had to call the police, and these two fishermen had to get escorted out by the police because people that were there were like, these two were about to die. Like the other fishermen were. So that's like a rule. And that's a rule of fishing that you just don't fucking. I feel like for the most part, that's a fishing, real, like, honest. You got to be.
It's a very honorable thing.
There's a code.
I think that's fishing and golf could be the two most egregious cheatings because it happens in like other sports, like you have pine tar on your hand or you have spider tack or whatever. Like that kind of shit happens in baseball. Cheating with lead weights in fishing might be the biggest way you could possibly. I don't know how you could cheat more in fishing.
Oh, and listen, like the Walleye Slam, the tournament there before this, they won over $100,000. Like these guys were making like a better living. Like I feel like we're doing a great job and like we do good in life, but like these guys were making a better living than all of us cheating in fishing tournaments. So it's pretty crazy.
I love the TikTok about it because when the guy's like, "Oh, there's $1,000 worth of boats you've been cheating. I hope I find you in a back alley. You'll never escape." Just like I don't think you would, man. Like if they didn't have the cops come, because those dudes, I think everybody was calling for them to get arrested too, because that's theft, right? Like it's
Well, so they said they could possibly be charged with some like pretty serious crimes over this. Another thing that they were doing, that they believe that they were doing. So at the end of these tournaments, a lot of times they will all donate their fish to local food banks, which is great, no waste, whatever. And these guys were notorious for, even with their winning fish, they were the only ones who would never donate the fish because they had secret compartments in their boats where they were hiding bigger fish that they had bought elsewhere. So the fish bodies were old, so they knew people would get sick if they ate the fish, so they couldn't donate the fish. Like these guys had secret boat compartments.
Integrity, because eventually, I don't think you will though. Like because that becomes so slippery that eventually you could see them not even caring if people get sick.
Well, I don't think it was integrity. I think it was that they knew that whoever was going to process these fish to send would immediately know and be like, these are old fish. These fish are old and stinky. These aren't. So it wasn't even integrity. It was that they knew they would get caught if whoever they gave the fish to send to the shelters or wherever was.
Sounds like they also got a little greedy too with as much winning as they were doing. It's like, oh, dude, you just happen to catch the biggest fish in the pond every time. You got to, space it out. Like they just got too greedy. And I think that's the case when you get money involved. You see it all the time with like white collar crime. People, they get a little and then they're like, oh wait, no one's going to catch me. And they get a little more and get a little more. And then before you know it, you're doing just egregious stuff like these gentlemen were doing. And ultimately, Icarus, it comes to an end, but it's just unbelievable that people don't have the level of integrity necessary to compete in fishing.
All right,
contests.
let's go around the room just to get a quick idea of where everybody's head's at. We'll start with you, Nick. Nick, do these people deserve a beating of a lifetime?
Oh my God.
Yeah, Kate.
Yeah, fucking let's beat them. I'm taking my bugle stick right to the domes of these guys.
I'm putting these guys in a room, locking the door with the dude from I Know What You Did Last Summer. The dude in the all black with the big sickle type hook thing. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm just going with a straight good old-fashioned beating. These folks need one, and they need one in a big way. We'll be back on Friday to tell you who else who needs a beating. Sound the retreat.